All right, this is 8 lessons learned helping 800 plus short-term vacation rental managers grow their inventory. My name is Brooke Fouts. I am founder and CEO of Vintory. Vintory, we are a sales and marketing platform that does one thing and one thing only. We help professional vacation rental managers grow their inventory. So we don't do anything with guests. We don't do anything with OTAs. We don't do anything with operations. We focus exclusively on supply, getting you more properties in your rental program. I've written a couple books, written from 0 to 500 properties in 5 years. Wrote another book called Vacation Rental Secrets, where we interview 52 of the top leaders in this space, and we ask them to share their top 10 mistakes they made in growing and scaling their companies. And I just released a new book called The Ultimate Tech Stack Guide, where we interviewed 55 of, again, the top leaders in this industry, and we asked them to share their tech stacks with us. And we kind of compiled a list of what that looks like, and also some cool little tips and tricks on what you can do to onboard new software and find new software, and go through that whole entire process. So if you just email me, brooke@vintory.com, happy to send you one of those books, or you can download them, and we're going to talk a little bit later here how you can download those books, or go to the point where you can I'll send them to you. So all right. So over the last, 5.5 years ago, of building up Vintory, we've helped over 800 companies grow their inventory. We learned a lot, really, what to do, and more importantly, we learned what not to do. So my goal here the next 30, 45 minutes or so is to not only kind of instill everything I've learned from helping, over 800 companies, but also helping you understand kind of what I did in building, Vantage up, and try to instill that into 30, 45 minutes. So let's get started. So here are those 8 lessons that we've learned from those top companies. Number one, they understand the core financial metrics. This is so, so critically important. Number two, they understand the value of great target data. 50% of all your marketing just comes down to your list. Number three, they are consistent in their marketing. They do not stop. Constant pressure on the market. Number four, they follow the 7 key messaging building blocks in all their marketing that they do to get new homeowners. Number five, they leverage technology to make themselves more efficient and more effective. Number six, they send direct mail, but they also do it consistently. Again, they do not stop. Number seven, they've got the right person in that business development role. And number eight, they pick up the darn phone or respond quickly. It's so, so critically important. Again, if you go to vintory.com/8lessons, you'll be able to download this presentation. You'll also be able to request all 3 of my books if you want them. So go to vintory.com/8lessons. All right. So before we go into those 8 lessons, I think it's really critically important to understand that new inventory is the greatest way to grow your top line revenues, grow your bottom line profits, and build your net worth. And I'm going to talk about exactly how that comes in the next couple slides here. I'll prove my case. So first off, I think it's really important to understand there's really 3 levers of growth you can do to grow your management company. You can increase your rates, you can increase your occupancy, or you can grow inventory. So let's look at an example. So here's a typical vacation rental management company. It's got about 40 homes. They're doing about $300 a night, 65% occupancy. They're doing about $2.8 million in gross booking revenue. So if you go out there and let's say you increase your rates, let's say you hire, a revenue management firm, you hire Tech Tape, something like that, John on, and he's, leveraging really good optimization. He's using some software to increase your rates. You're able to get another 5% in rates. You just added $142,000 to your top line. Great. That's awesome, right? Exactly. Or let's say you go out there and you increase your occupancy by 5%. You just added 219,000. Here's the thing. Both of those have an upper limit. You can't get more than 100% occupancy, and you can only raise your rates so much. But what we've done is we've actually gone out there, we surveyed our partners, and we asked them, what's the equivalent lift of a 5% increase in rates, 5% increase in occupancy? And the consensus was about 1 property per month. So if you go out there and you add 1 property per month, look what it does to your top line revenues, $854,000. It's 4 to 6 times the impact. And there's no limit. You can continue to add and you can continue to grow. Again, there is not a greater lever in the world to increasing your vacation rental management company than going out there and just adding more inventory. All right. So one question I get all the time from many of our partners is, Brooke, how much money falls to the bottom line? And I've asked this question well over 500 times. Jacoby Owen with C2G Advisors, he's got more data on this than anybody. Net, what usually falls to the bottom line in profits or net income is about 10% of your gross booking revenue. So typically you're not doing this on a per property basis. You're looking at across your entire portfolio, and then you divide it by how many properties you have to come up with what the number is. And what we found again is about 10%. Sometimes you'd be a little bit higher if you got a little bit bigger company. Sometimes you'd be a little bit lower if you have a smaller company. So if you sign up a property doing 50,000 in gross booking revenue, you can assume that you're making about 10% falls to the bottom line in profits or net income or EBITDA, or about $5,000 in this example. But that's per year. You don't keep a property in your rental program for just 1 year. You're going to keep a property in your rental program for multiple years. So how do you calculate that customer lifetime? Well, it's a simple formula. You just take 1 divided by your churn. Brooke, what the heck is churn? Churn is what percentage of your inventory do you lose in a given year? And you need to average this out. And again, after asking this question over 500 times, we found the number is usually about 10%. So if you take 1 divided by 10%, you get a 10-year lifetime. So 5,000 profits year 1 times 10 years equals a $50,000 lifetime value. So here's a quick little hack alert. Assuming you fall within industry averages within margins and then also churn, so there's 10% numbers, your lifetime value in profits is equal to your gross booking revenue. So if you go out there and you sign up a property doing 75,000 in gross booking revenue, you can take it to the bank. You're going to make about $75,000 in lifetime profits. If you go out there and sign up a property doing 100,000 in gross booking revenue, you can take it to the bank. You're going to make about $100,000 over the next 10 years. Unbelievable. So we've proven this, we've kind of proven the case. You get this great cash flow. There's a reason why private equity is coming in this space and buying up all these companies. But if and when you decide, so you got this great cash flow, but if and when you decide to sell your business, you are going to get a check for every one of those management contracts, because the true value of your management company are the management contracts. It's not your beautifully wrapped truck. It's not your office. It's not even your guest database. What they're buying are those contracts. So how do you calculate the value of inventory at exit? Well, there's many, many different methods. I'll let the best and the brightest out there explain to you. Jacoby Owen, again, is really good at this. But the most popular method is multiple of earnings. And it's pretty simple. You just it's anywhere between 3.5 and call it 6 times your profits or your net income or your EBITDA. So in this case, we'll just use an example of 5x. So if you take 5x times our example from before, $5,000 in EBITDA, it gives you a valuation of about $25,000 per property. Now, again, I know this isn't how they calculate it, but again, this is the most popular method. And this is just kind of a general range, is $25,000 per property. So you may be in a fast growing company where you're actually getting more than that. You might have low profits on your income. It might be lower than that. But again, this is just kind of a quick general rule of thumb. So if you go out there and you sign up, let's say 10 properties over the next couple months, you just added $250,000 in net worth. Let's say over the next year, you add 50 properties. You just added $1.25 million in net worth. Let's say over the next 2 years, you crush it and you sign up 200 properties in your rental program. You just added $5 million in net worth to your business. Unbelievable. So just to further confirm this point, our team went out. We looked at some public records of what some comps of some property management companies that were sold. Here's what we found. Vicasa's acquisition of Wyndham, they paid $18,000 per contract. If you look at Vicasa's investor deck from July 2021, all the M&A they did, they said they averaged about $21,000 per contract. This isn't just the US, this is UK as well. Vitruvian Partners, private equity firm out of UK, they bought Sykes Holiday Cottages for $27,000 per contract. But this comp is probably the best comp of them all right here. Check this one out. C2G Advisors, again, have done more M&A in this space than anybody. They looked at I think it was last year, they did about $250 million worth of mergers and acquisitions, and then they divided that by the total number of properties that were in those portfolios, and it came out to about $29,000 per contract. Unbelievable. So that is a great, great comp right there. And then check out this one, Turnkey. Vacasa paid $103,000 per contract for Turnkey. All right, so let's get into it. So number one, they understand, these top leaders, they really, truly understand the value of core vacation rental inventory financial metrics. So we're going to talk about it here. So I actually did a little post on LinkedIn, a little survey poll, and found out like what people were willing to pay for a management contract that would generate $75,000 in first year top line revenue. We had 36% only said $1,000. I couldn't believe that. 23% said 5,000. So think about that. What's that? 59% said they would only pay 5,000 or less. Unbelievable. And then we had 30% said they would pay 7,500, which is that first year net margins, which is really where you should be targeting. We're going to talk a little bit about that in a second here. And then last, 11% said they would actually pay 29,000 for that property, which is again what the average M&A purchase price was. So I just thought this was interesting, kind of give a state of affairs of where people are their willingness to pay. All right, so first off, let's kick it off with CAC. Brooke, what the heck is CAC? Well, first off, it stands for customer acquisition cost. Pretty self-explanatory. What is the cost to generate a new customer? Now, I usually don't take into account like people expenses into this. And the reason why is it's just too hard to calculate. Very often it's going to be the owner, it's going to be the GM that is doing this as like a side project. They're not doing it as a full-time position. If you have a full-time person, you can feel free to put that in there to get a true CAC. But we do not do it just in general for across our partners because again, we just want to keep it simple and then have a simple comparison against all the other ones. All right, so let's look at an example here. So let's say you send out 2,000 letters and your average cost is $2.50. Now, some postcards might be, I don't know, $1. So let's say some, pretty brochures are $4 and maybe you're doing some handwritten letters, which is $4 or $5 as well. So anyways, your dollar cost averaging about $2.50 each. So it gives you about $5,000 spent in this example. And let's say you have 0.5% response rate, which is what the Direct Marketing Association says is the average response rate in direct mail. That nets you about 10 calls. And let's say you close 1 out of 10 of those. Some of them maybe are tire kickers. Some of them, maybe the property doesn't qualify. And then some of them you actually are able to pitch and then you sell a percentage of that. But let's just say you're able to convert 10% of those 10 calls. That covers one contract. So math majors, what is your CAC? Pretty simple here, right? You spent $5,000, you acquired one contract, your CAC is $5,000. So we're going to use that as our baseline for the next couple of slides here. All right. So again, using that example from before, you've signed up a property doing $50,000 in gross booking revenue. It's cost you $5,000 in CAC to acquire it. But here's the thing. You have this stream of net income or profits. You're making $416 in profits every single month for that first, in perpetuity, but we'll just talk about in this case in that first year. So this is what it looks like on a cumulative basis. You've outlaid $5,000, but each month you're getting closer and closer and closer to kind of that break even. We call this CAC recovery. So in this case, or break even point, our CAC recovery in this example is 12 months. And that is typically what we want to average before people cost. We usually want to keep our CAC recovery about that 12 months. And here's why. So think about it. You have this $5,000 outlay immediately. Then year one, all you're doing is covering your expenses, but you got this stream of profits from year 2 through year 10. So you've invested $5,000, you brought in $50,000, so you've netted $45,000. Think about that. So I did an example. The gold standard in investing is the S&P index. The S&P index beats 86% of all actively managed mutual funds. So I did a little example here. If you invested $5,000 in the S&P index, and let's just assume it was a 12% return, you'd have $15,000 at the end of that 10 years. But think about this. That's even compounding. That's 1/3, versus what you would have done to get the new inventory. So again, the gold standard in investing is the S&P index, and it's only returning $15,000, but yet spending $5,000 to get a new property, you're netting $45,000 is 3x the response. And remember, if and when you sell your company, you're going to get a check for every one of those management contracts. So I really can't emphasize this enough. Growing inventory is the number one thing you can do to help grow your top line revenues, your bottom line profits, and build your net worth. All right, let's talk a little bit about unit economics. Brooke, what the heck is unit economics? Pretty simple. Can I make more profit from my customers than it cost me to acquire them? So we have a couple different ones here. Obviously, return on investment. Most people probably know what that is. And then the holy grail of all metrics, LTV to CAC, or lifetime value to customer acquisition costs. So for the return on investment, typically what we're shooting for in year one, again, is that target is just a 1L. We just want to recover our investment in that first year. And then in a 5-year ROI, we're looking to 4x our money. So think about that, like 4xing our money in 5 years. That's a pretty impressive. That's like private equity type returns. All right, LTV to CAC ratio. So again, the lifetime of profits of a property versus the cost to acquire them. So I love this one. I call this the holy grail of all metrics because it takes into account so many different key factors. It takes into account your profit margins, it takes into account your churn, right? We talked about your retention and like what your lifetime is. It takes into account your acquisition costs and it kind of blends them all together. So again, this is a great, great, great metric to look at. So let's say you have a CAC of $5,000. And then again, that property brought in 50,000. So again, just like in here, we're targeting out that 10-to-1 ratio on a lifetime value to CAC ratio. So here's the thing. If you've got a solid LTV to CAC ratio and you have a systematic way of getting new leads that are turning into new deals, I tell you what, you have a money-making machine. Back up a truck full of cash and invest it back into growing your inventory because you've got a heck of a business here. And like I said, it's just like this money-making machine. You're putting dollar bills on one end, and out the other end is flying $10, $20, $50 bills, even $100 bills. All right. So the second thing here that the best companies do is they understand the value of great target data. 50% of all your marketing just comes down to your list. So one of the things we do when we meet with our partners is we kind of identify, we want to identify their targets and we want to go after that. And we want to, specifically, draw out where they want to target and get their data and what those ICPs, those ideal customer profiles look like. So again, 50% of all marketing comes down to your list. So where do you get those lists? There's multiple different methods, multiple different places. First up, there's tax records, very often affiliated with MLS. This is usually the best because it's usually going to be the most up to date. It's going to be also the cheapest. Very often it's even free if you have MLS, especially if you have MLS. The problem is sometimes you can only download one record at a time, and that's just not feasible. So if that's the case, I just recommend going to a list broker. There's a million different list brokers out there. There's Info USA, there's Exact Data. Couple things, just make sure you're looking for absentee owner data. Absentee owners is where the mailing address and the property address are different. That's usually a good indicator of a real estate investor. And secondly, make sure they have the ability to do appending services. Appending services means they can fill in any kind of missing information. So envision you're targeting you see this house, you want to go after them. You just, give them the address and they can do a reverse append to get the homeowner's name, the homeowner's mailing address, their email, and all that other information so you can reach out to them. One that's often overlooked, vacation rental permit data. If your city, county, or township requires a vacation rental permit, guess what? There's a list out there for you. Just got to know where to ask and get it. Sometimes it's easy. Sometimes they give it to you like on a CD-ROM or something like that. Scraping data. You can scrape any data out there. You can scrape the OTAs. You can scrape the large venture-backed conglomerates. You can scrape your competitors. You can scrape your competitors that are purchased by large venture-backed conglomerates. I would highly recommend going to Upwork or Fiverr. It's where we fired a couple of our scrapers. It's not really that easy to do. This last one here, data compilers that specialize in the short-term vacation rental industry. So companies like Vintory, we have an entire data science team that's all they're doing is they're out there going out there, getting all this data for all these different sources. We just talked about appending it, deduping, merging, blending these lists together, kind of getting other cool features from that, and then make it really, really easy for you to use that data to start marketing too. All right. What are some of the best sources of data? We'll go kind of in order here. The first one is known short-term rentals. So if we know, it's listed on VRBO, we know it's listed on Airbnb. We also see it on maybe large venture-backed conglomerate's website. And then we even see a vacation rental permit. There's a high probability that that's a known short-term rental, and that's obviously a great target to go after. The next one, we call it Select, and we're really excited. This is a new feature we just launched in Vintory data platform, where let's just say you have a building that has 100 properties in it, and let's say 50 of those properties actually are known short-term rentals. Well, there's a high probability that the other 50 will be or would have thought about becoming a vacation rental as well. So sometimes you can get that Select filter. And then the last one is absentee owners. Again, this is probably going to be like the least likely to one to go, but it's still a pretty good one. This is just one where obviously the The property address and the mailing address are different, which again is usually an indicator of some sort of real estate investor. All right, so what's next is the top companies. They are consistent in their marketing. They do not stop. Constant pressure on the market. One of my mentors, Gary Jago, he's got the School of Entrepreneurship named after him at Notre Dame. He says that all the time. Consistent, be consistent, be consistent, constant pressure on the market. So one of the first things we do when we meet with our partners is we build a 12-month marketing campaign like you see right here. And this is everything. And again, everyone like usually does this on the guest side, but ask them if they do it on the owner side, they say no. But build out your direct mail schedule, build out your email schedule, build out your digital marketing schedule, and then just stick to it. Of course, you can make some slight adjustments here and there, but for the most part, you can just want to lay that out there and be consistent with it. And don't think about doing this just during hunting season. You want to do this all year long and don't stop. It reminds me of like every touch point you have is kind of like these old arcade games, these quarters. Every time you are doing a marketing piece, you're dropping a quarter and you're just getting closer and closer and closer. And until eventually you drop the one quarter and it hits and they end up buying. It reminds me of the old marketing adage. It's called the marketing rule of seven. And what this states is the rule of seven simply states it takes an average of 7 touch points for somebody to actually remember your brand. So make sure you're continually getting in front of them. And I love this chart. This is called the Valley of Disappointment. This could be used for almost anything. It could be used for diets, for gyms, but also for marketing, especially new homeowners. And you see here, you'll notice you have this dotted line. This is what people think should happen. And then you have the solid line. This is what actually happens. And what happens is most people quit, whether it's a diet, whether it's a gym, whether it's even marketing new homeowners, they quit during this valley of disappointment, this gray or this beige section here. And they shouldn't, because if you notice, once they actually get out of it, look at the slope once they get out. It's much, much higher. And this is, and don't think of it as though you're like wasting money, or don't think of it as though you're like wasting, but you're actually like, it's storing that energy. Every time you're doing one of those marketing points, it's just storing it. You're kind of getting in front of those people. You're building out your brand awareness. And then when it does come out of it, again, it comes at a much higher slope. So I love this image. And it, like I said, it's so true. And, even we tell our partners, during onboarding, we show them this. And then sometimes they're always like, get so frustrated in the early days because it just doesn't necessarily work right out of the gates. But over time, it definitely does. And it comes out much higher. All right, next up, they follow the 7 key messaging building blocks in all their marketing for new homeowners. Again, another thing we do when we meet with our partners early on is we go out and we build out the 7 key messaging building blocks that you see here. So we'll go through these really quickly. So first up, features and benefits. What are the core parts that make up your rental program? And I'll give you a little hint. Don't make it platitudinal like everybody else. Try to really, truly think, what are your differentiators? What are you doing different and unique that none of your competitors really can say? Up next is unique selling proposition, kind of the same thing, but this is a one sentence, one line, one thing. What makes you completely different than everybody else? Some examples. We had one of our partners was Vacation Rental Manager of the Year. Not too many companies can say that. We had another company that was Maui Small Business Entrepreneur of the Year. We had another one that had 100% retention with all their homeowners. So again, what is the one thing that sets you apart in that USP? Trust icons. Trust icons establish trust and credibility almost at a subconscious level. Examples of trust icons, if you're a Better Business Bureau A+, if you're a member of VRMA, if you're Air Plus or Airbnb Superhost, if you're a premier host with VRBO, you get the idea. Social proof. Social proof is a psychological phenomenon that people trust what other people have to say about you. They feel like they don't even really need to do the due diligence because somebody else has already done it out there. Obviously, testimonials is a great source of leads, a great example of social proof. And here's a little hint too. If you're doing any kind of micro targeting where you're targeting like a specific building or a specific community, use the quotes, use those testimonials, that social proof of people that actually live in those buildings or in those communities. Up next, compelling offer. Make them an offer they can't refuse, otherwise known as a mafia offer. it's one of those things. My acid test for compelling offers: envision your targets are standing over the recycling bin, over the trash can. They're going through the mail, and they're just dropping the mail directly into the trash can or the recycling bin, and something compels them enough when they get your postcard to set it aside and call you later. Some examples of compelling offers: it could be a free smart home. I've seen people do signing bonuses. I've seen people do like 0% interest financing on home improvements. I've even seen some people now going to signing bonuses, which people think that's crazy at first. But again, if you look at the CAC, the customer acquisition cost, as long as you're baking into that and it's the numbers still pencil out, then it's worth it to do it. Call to action, CTA. Every marketing piece you have has to have some kind of call to action. Here's the thing though, like, give them multiple options. It doesn't have to be just call, doesn't have to be just go to a landing page, give them multiple options. Call, text, go to the landing page, fill out a form, scan the QR code, give them multiple different things, but make it very, very easy for them. Don't let them think. You'd be surprised. I've actually gone to people's websites and they don't even have any kind of call to action. So they're driving people to this website and they have no CTA. Last but not least is risk reversals. Every marketing piece you have needs to have some kind of risk reversal. Risk reversals reduce friction in the buying process, make it really easy for them to sign up. Don't give them any excuses. You want to reduce friction in this process. So examples of risk reversals, no out-of-pocket expenses, 100% satisfaction guaranteed. I've even like heard David Gotti with Smoky Mountains. He used to do a thing where you'd actually refund if you were unhappy for any reason. He would refund you your fees, your management fees for the last month. Evolve, say what you will about theirs, but they've got a great risk reversal. Their risk reversal is you can cancel and we'll give you 100% refund of their management fees. Now, if you read the fine print, it's only between month like 5 and 6, and you got to jump through a bunch of hoops to do it. And, you're probably sitting on a bunch of reservations at that point. So I know I went through these quickly, but again, if you go to vintory.com/8lessons, happy to send it out to you, or you can download it from there. All right, up next, they leverage technology to make themselves more efficient and more effective. It's like it's like giving, the Iron Man suit to Tony Stark. Really, really leverages them and makes them superhuman. So there's many different technologies out there. I'm just going to highlight a couple of them. First is CRM with marketing automation. If you do this, you just want to make sure you're getting some kind of marketing automation that has it again built in, if at all possible. And here's the thing, like, these things are pretty cool. They automatically enroll you in sequences. They can automatically do emails. They can automatically do text messages. They can even do hot call transfers. We found many of the partners, because remember, we see all the data in the back end of their systems. Many of the partners we have, 50% of the deals they're getting from long-term nurturing sequence. And what that means is the software is reaching out to them for them. You don't have to do it. Look, I've been in your shoes. You don't have the time. You don't have the bandwidth. So getting those emails from them is super helpful. All right, here's another one that was a big surprise for me: cold email outreach. We had a partner, Jed Stevens in Kauai, first email campaign he sent. He got 3 deals out of that, and I think average gross booking revenue is between $100,000 and $150,000 per property. So we know what these properties are worth. So think about that. What's that? $400,000 to $450,000 in gross booking revenue from one email campaign. Here's the key with email. You want to make sure you're not using your servers. You want to make sure you're using a different server. You also want to make sure you have a really good direct response copy. Highly recommend, again, finding someone on Upwork and Fiverr to write that for you. And then secondly, you're not using MailChimp or Constant Contact. This is not like, regular marketing. This is direct marketing, which is totally different. And you want to make sure you're getting, use a service like Mailshake or Lemlist. They'll ensure your emails are getting delivered, not getting captured into spam bots, spam filters. And also, it's a good source. They actually mimic it, and they would actually send out emails in more of a human kind of like scenario, as opposed to just massively emailing it out there. Also, here's an example of a ROI calculator we built for our partners. This ROI calculator is built for our internal team. What's great about this is, like, so many people have so much traffic coming to their property management page already, but you need to just go figure out a way to capture those leads that are coming in. You want to do like a lead magnet like this. Like I said, we built this out. If you're not on our, on the Vintory services, You can build this out on a tool called like Calconic, which is an interactive calculator builder, or you could even use Claude. I've seen people Claude AI actually using to build software code. It's pretty amazing. You just type in exactly what you're looking for. It gives you the code. You can embed it right on your page. All right, they send direct mail consistently. I'm telling you, direct mail is not dead. The vacation rental industry is one of the few industries where direct mail still works. The key is, again, consistency. I'd much rather send out 1,000 direct mail pieces over the next 6 months to the same targets than 6,000 all at one time. The math pencils out. The ROI is there. Trust me. A couple other hints with direct mail. First is like, make it personal. You don't want to just, make it very generic. You notice here's an example. We're actually like mail merging in the building name, the person's name of this. Is really highly effective, on that. Here's a cool thing. Like I read a stat that Vacasa actually mailed out 7.5 million mailers in 1 year. They would not be doing this if it didn't work. They do it because it works. And their organic CAC, according to their investor deck, was about $6,700 versus 21,000. So think about that. Their organic CAC is about a third of the cost of their M&A basis. Another thing, we mentioned this before, but try handwritten letters. We've had a lot of success with these. This is done with a company called Handwritten with a Y. Again, you would never know these weren't written by a robot, or they were written by a robot, and they were not written by a human person. All right, coming down the end here, I promise they have the right person in the business development role. So a question I get all the time is, Brooke, does it make sense for me to hire a full-time business development rep? And the answer is, it depends. It depends on a couple things. It depends, do you have a little bit of money invest? Because it doesn't happen immediately. And then also number two, do you have the right person in your seat? Well, how do you tell if you have the right person in the right seat? Highly recommend tools like Predictive Index and Culture Index. They will make your life so much easier to make sure you have the right person in there. So we've identified, after looking at over 500 different companies, the top people have what profiles do they have. And these are what we come up with. They're either captains or persuaders, mavericks, rainmakers, or trailblazers. These profiles will do 3x the output of most of the other profiles. So again, if you have the money to invest in this and you have the right person, then yes, it's worth it. So remember this slide from before? We have a property worth about $5,000 in net profits and a 10-year lifetime for 10 years. We're going to be using that as our baseline in the next slide. So here's a break-even analysis on Biz Dev Betty. So let's say you're paying Biz Dev Betty 80 grand a year. She signs up 16 homes. The key here is this is 16 new homes you would not have without her. So if she goes out there, she signs that up, and the average gross booking revenue is 50,000 or 5,000 in profits in year one. You've about broken even. So you're like, yeah, I guess it was okay. I guess it was worth it. I got 16. But no, remember, the first thing is, again, you can probably squeak profits out of that. But number two is there's a lifetime value. Think about year two. You're not only having the new 16 homes she signs up, but you have the 16 homes that were generating revenue from last year. So again, it's stacking. So you actually remember have this $800,000 lifetime value. So you've invested $80,000 and you're getting 800 grand over the next 10 years. And if she continues to do this every year, it's going to stack. It's going to stack another 80 grand, stack another 80 grand, stack another 80 grand, or stack another $800,000 in lifetime value every single year. So I would say, again, if you have the right time, if you got the right person, then it's definitely worth it to hire a full-time biz dev person. All right, coming down the end here, I promise they're incredibly responsive. So one of the things we do, we ask our partners, and they want all the shiny things. They want the pretty landing page. They want the pretty postcards. But really what often comes down to the most important reasons for success is they're incredibly responsive. They pick up the darn phone. And this is a little public service announcement. I highly recommend that everybody call their office, go onto their property management page, pretend like you're an owner, and secret shop your own company and see what happens. You'd be surprised. We have one partner that literally they had a voicemail box that hadn't been checked in years. So they were missing all out of those leads. So just make sure you go through there, just go through that process, see how difficult it is to sign up. But here's what we found. We found, according to Mark Roberge, this gentleman in the lower left-hand corner, he's a former chief revenue officer, chief marketing officer, something like that at HubSpot. Since he's like employee number 3 there, so he's got more data on this than anybody. He's actually now a Harvard professor in sales. He says if you connect with a lead immediately or call them back within 2 minutes, you are 10 times 10 times more likely to close it when waiting just 1 hour. And you're 10,000 times more likely to close it versus waiting just 1 day. But again, we ask our partners, are you effective? Do you respond to the leads immediately? They're like, oh yeah, Brooke, you don't even understand. We got a great team, blah, blah, blah. Well, guess what? The data doesn't back that up. If you look, when we surveyed 100 property managers, we inquired about property management survey, or I'm sorry, we secret shopped 100 property managers. We inquired about property management services, and they only had a 34% response rate, which means 2/3 of the time we never got through. Then we left a message, which who leaves messages anymore? We only got a 57% response rate. Again, the results are astonishing. But when we reached out to the most successful companies, the companies that are scaling at like double digits every single year, they had a 100% success rate. They always picked up the phone. And it just reminds me of that quote. It's like 80% of success is just showing up. All right, so there you have it. Those are the 8 lessons learned from the top companies. We'll go through them briefly. They understand the core financial metrics for inventory acquisition. They understand the value of great target data. They are consistent in their marketing. They do not stop. They follow the 7 key messaging building blocks in all their new homeowner marketing. Number 5, they leverage technology to make themselves more efficient and more effective. Again, kind of like giving Tony Stark the Iron Man suit. They send direct mail, but they do it consistently. Number 7, they have the right person in the business development role. And number 8, they pick up the darn phone or respond quickly. So again, if you want any more of this information, you want any of my books, just go to vintory.com/8lessons. Thank you very much. Hope you enjoyed this.